How to start a private therapy or mental health practice. You've been wondering how to do it? You've come to the right place. I've actually helped a bunch of people do that.
When we can live life on our terms, on a holistic level, taking into account not just our business lives, but also our health, all of our relationships, from friends, family, partners, the world changes.
So when it comes to starting your private mental health or therapy practice, it's really going to depend on a few things to start with. But the primary areas we're going to talk about are A, compliance and experience, what's it going to take to get started. B, how are you going to define and pick your niche. C, how are you going to build the business. And then C, how are you going to get found? Or excuse me, D, C twice, anyway. Okay, so first off, we've got other videos on this, but you're going to be able to find out in your area what are the legal requirements for you to become a mental health therapist or in your private practice. And in some states, candidly, you can just put out your shingle and say, I'm a therapist, I'm a counselor. In other states, they're pretty uptight about it. You have to have a certain amount of education. A lot of places you have to have a master's degree. And then once you have the master's degree, a lot of times you may have to work thousands of hours inside of an existing organization before they allow you to go out on your own, working quote unquote underneath someone. So the first step is for you to figure out, hey, what are the legal requirements for me to hang my shingle out as a private practice therapist or a private mental health therapist. Now, the second step then is once you've done this, part of it is good. Part of it, candidly, the therapists in those areas are protecting their turf a little bit by making it hard and difficult for people to get in. But the good thing is that if you're in an area that's a challenge, once you go through the hoops to get through, you can get there. So my wife actually went through this whole process, and she changed careers at 40, and she went back to school. She ended up needing to get a master's degree, which was its own set of challenges because she was British, and to switch from one area to another, from the UK to here was a separate set. But she defined that that's what she wanted to do. She was able to take a couple courses, said, yeah, I like this. This is good. So once she was able to get her degree, then she was able to start working for other organizations. Now, we ended up moving to the state of Nebraska. And in the state of Nebraska, I think they required 2,000 hours of working within an organization where somebody was sort of above you that could oversee your work. This isn't all bad, because what it does is it does put you in the trenches, and it does give you sort of a net to make sure that you're going to be okay, because you want to make sure you're comfortable and you're competent. Now remember, competence drives confidence. So the more comfortable you get, the stronger you're going to become. And if you are working for another organization, this gives you the opportunity to start exploring what are the things that you like, what are the things you don't like. So in my wife, Rika, her case, she was able to work for areas, and she realized that she doesn't do very well with folks who have addiction issues. Doesn't mean that they're bad people at all, it's just not necessarily her jam. In other cases, there's people out there who really love working with kids. And again, I don't think that's Rika. But Rika loves working with families, and she loves working with couples. And that's an area that she excels at. And she was able to figure that out while she was going along and figuring things out. And that leads me to the second point, which is how can you go through and define and pick your niche? What is it that's going to be unique about you? So in some cases when you're starting, and to be open and honest right now in the mental health field, after COVID, if you can become a licensed therapist, you're probably going to get filled up. People are screaming for help right now. There's opportunities like crazy for people to go out on their own and do private practice. But if you can become very focused in the niche in the area you're great at, that's going to attract people in different ways. So for Rika, the fact that Rika had a previous life as an accountant, she understood business. In addition, she owned her own practice. I've had 16 different companies. She was able to understand, wow, okay, I'm good at understanding businesses and the nuances and the stresses that sometimes come along with business ownership. So she was able to say, look, I understand this, and she was able to put in a niche that she's good with couples and business owners. Now, in other cases, Rika is also from the UK, and she was able to say, look, I understand what it's like to be a foreigner in this country and the transitions and the challenges associated with that. For you, I would encourage you to think about what are some of the challenges you've seen in your life, and are those areas that you can amplify and that you're going to be able to relate to and help people in a better way, and they're going to allow them to relate with you. So once you start to create that niche, what I'm going to ask you to do is then go out and start thinking about who else is in this field. And you can research this as if you were trying to find a counselor that does what you're thinking of doing. And through that, you're going to start to see who else is out there, how competitive it is, what's the environment look like. Once you start to do that, it's fairly easy. What I would suggest from that point is to go and actually start talking with some of those counselors and say, hey, I'm looking at possibly doing this. Would you be up for let me buy a cup of coffee? If they say no, fine, let them go. But I'm willing to bet that the majority of them will say, yes, I'm happy to. And you could say, what have you learned? And if you were in my shoes, how would you handle things? How would you do things different? Now, what's interesting is that when you start to do this and you start to become more involved in the community, the counseling and therapies community, people start referring a lot. My wife, Rika, happens to know somebody who exclusively does sex therapy. Now, Rika doesn't do that, so she refers anybody that has those questions there. Rika doesn't want to do anything with drug addictions. She refers those out. But just like that, other people will refer back to her. So once people know that you're doing a good job, it's going to help. And remember, making sure you do the work, really helping people. That's the cornerstone of all that. Now, another way of becoming known and getting people to know who you are and getting to know the community is get involved in the organizations that are in your community. And if you can't, even get on the board. Be the secretary or be the accountant. Nobody likes to do those jobs. But if you get on there and you help them for a couple of years, people will learn who you are. I can almost guarantee you'll start to get some referrals from that. Now, we've been able to go through and sort of define what are the compliance and issues that you need to do for the legal part to legally practice, how you're going to pick your niche, starting to create some sort of personal market awareness. The next step then is you're going to have to start to consider, what do I need to do to build my business? And with this, don't freak out. It has never been easier to do this. And there's a million people out there who want to help you. And actually, in my book, The Aspiring Solopreneur, we have courses online as well, but it'll very safely help you figure out each one of these steps to define what it is you want. From how do I find a good business attorney that's going to help me figure out what's the right structure? What kind of accounting do I need? And are there any special compliance or insurance issues? Help me with some of the marketing components. It's very, very affordable. Most of these people will give you a little bit of time. On them, they're doing their own business development. And in the book, we talk a lot about, and other videos on this channel, to help you really figure out how do you find those right people. But how do you find that team of advisors that can help you build that right structure? All right, so then the last thing is, once you start to build it, you define it, you set these things up, the next step is going to be having a clear understanding, both if you're in a relationship, what your partner thinks, but how long do you have to ramp? And what I mean by that is, likely, even if you do a bunch of work, prep work, super safe, you know you're going to be good, but you're likely not going to, hand in your resume, hand in your notice at your existing job, step out, and then walk into, hey, I've got a full practice. Probably isn't going to happen. But if it's okay with your existing practice, you may start to moonlight a little bit and start working with people on the side. That would let you slowly or safely step into it. You may be able to look with other organizations, maybe entities, businesses, schools, whoever it may be, that are looking for somebody to come in contract, and they'll be able to give you, 20 or 30% of your workload right off the bat, but at a lower rate. But you're going to have to be clear with your partner, your spouse or partner, that, hey, look, it's going to take some time, and I've been able to save this much money, and I think as long as we have, I think I'm going to be full in 3 months, but I've got us covered for 6 months, worst to worst. We should be good to go. I'm ready to pull the trigger. When you decide to do that, because here's the thing, if you end up feeling desperate you're not necessarily always going to make the best decisions. Versus if it's like, no, I want to make sure I'm the best possible therapist, the best possible mental health person I can be to help folks, people will sense that, and you will build your business by word of mouth, and it'll grow step by step by step by step. But the important thing to remember is that it is easy and it is safe. I can tell you from an economic standpoint, I think Rika was making about $40 an hour when she worked for the previous company. And she now bills at well over 200, and she gets to work only 20 hours a week, working with people that she really wants to work and how she helps, and she values that, and they value her, and it gives her the opportunity to live a very healthy lifestyle, doing her exercise and a well-balanced lifestyle. So it is possible. So as a reminder, you can go to aspiringsolopreneur.com. There's a whole bunch, there's tools in there. If you got questions, and please subscribe. If you have questions here too, you can leave a message or a question at the bottom, and be happy to help in any way we can. But it is worth it. So with that, we wish you the best of luck. Keep smiling.